Hey guys, I just wanted to say happy Saturday and also happy birthday to my dad in heaven. And so I just made 10 videos on trust, advocacy, black and white thinking, growth mindset, fixed mindset, spread love, share love, spread love. So I love making these shorter clips on TikTok and Instagram and then share them in parts. So it's like 10 parts. And then I'm going to compile them all and put them on YouTube as like a half an hour video. So if you want to just catch little clips, it's going to be posted there, here, and it's going to say part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5. You can watch the clips individually if you like, or if you want to just sit and digest the whole thing in one meal, it's going to be on my Love Dreaming Peach YouTube channel. And pretty much just sort of like, just like a heads up, I try to do that anytime I have videos where in the beginning it says part 1, part 2, part 3, etc. I will try, if I have the time, to do that, to compile all the parts into a long form video. I tend to have a very long attention span. I do enjoy sitting and watching things for half an hour. Like, I get kind of annoyed with things that get real short, maybe because I'm Gen X and I grew up, before the internet. I have the ability to sit and maintain my concentration and focus on a thought or a topic for a while, and I enjoy that. But I like TikTok. I like all these cute little filters, and I like how I can make these shorter clips and then share them and people can digest them. And I've noticed that, when I do a multi-part thing, some parts get lots of views, other parts not so much. So anyway, this is really just saying that if you like the short form videos, they'll be here on TikTok and Instagram. But if you want to just sit back and spend a couple hours with me hanging out, Love Dreaming Peach is where I have all my talking videos, and Love Living Peach is where we can stretch, dance, do some yoga. And if you really want to get deep, you can support me on Patreon at Love Living Peach, and then you have access to even more videos where I do long walks and talks, and I can talk for like an hour, hour and a half sometimes. So anyway, mwah, love ya. See you there. Good morning, my lovely peaches and my new friend Trev. How are you? Yesterday we had an extremely interesting back and forth exchange of voice notes, which is like a new thing for me. And we had a super interesting conversation. And I wanted to reply, but I thought, you know what, let me just make another video yet again, because it's an interesting topic and a point of discussion. So we were discussing a few things: trust, advocacy, and facts, black and white, or fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So here was a few things. I just wanted to read the definition. Advocate, a person who publicly supports, I'm reading on my laptop, by the way, right over here. See, it's so cute. Okay. An advocate, a person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. A person who pleads on someone else's behalf. A pleader in a court of law, a lawyer. Publicly recommend or support. Okay, and then facts. A thing that is known or proved to be true. Information used as evidence or as part of a report or a news article. The law, facts, the truth about events as opposed to interpretation. I still believe people can interpret facts in their own way. It's just like someone can stand here and show you with a chart, graphs, statistics, and all the facts in the world that their stance on any given subject is factual. People believe things are factual when it comes to gender. I don't. I believe that gender is a spectrum. Other people believe, look down, look in between your legs. It's a fact. It's a biological fact. And in their opinion, the fact says this equals that, where I believe something completely different. I believe whatever your facts are in between your legs is not your gender. Gender is a social expression of self. In my opinion, that's my factual belief. Okay? So I do believe that opinions can be often taken as fact, and interpretation, the way people interpret events, so it's saying the truth of events as opposed to your interpretation. This is probably going to be multiple parts. Oh, also, happy birthday, Dad in heaven. It's February 4th. It's my dad's birthday. Okay, so back to, and it's funny because, he was an extremely intelligent, super intelligent man, and sometimes he had a fixed mindset. Like, for example, when it came to new words, my dad would get real frustrated about new words, and I would explain to him, Dad, that's what language is. Language evolves. There's so many words now that didn't even exist when he was alive. He passed 8 years ago. Like yeet. There's so many words, okay? And the facts, see, the way I look at things is that, yes, people do believe facts are facts. People believe that is the truth of the event. That's not my interpretation. I have these conversations with my kids sometimes because they'll get upset. They'll say, do you know that so-and-so thinks such and such, which is so not true? And that's where I got into the conversation with my friend, where I was saying, sometimes people believe that 2 + 2 is 5. And you could stand on your head. You could do everything you could imagine to prove the facts that, that's incorrect. 2 + 2 = 4. And there's no other way to slice it, okay? The point of the lesson that I tell my children is only that other people have other ways of thinking about things. And for them, that's what it is. So it doesn't matter how many charts and graphs and facts and, empirical data that you're able to prove your case. If somebody believes something, then they believe it, and they have a right to believe it. That's what religion is about. That's what living, how you choose you want to live your life is about. It can even be something like the way you dress, whether or not boys are supposed to have long hair. Both of my kids have long hair. Almost every day when we go out, people assume that they're girls, and I've had it their whole lives. They couldn't give two shits because in their mind, they don't care. They don't care if somebody thinks they're a boy or a girl because they don't get all bunched up about that. It doesn't matter to them. In their mind, the fact is they are who they are and they express themselves how they want to. So what other people think is irrelevant to them. They never get upset about that. People who say, oh, she's so pretty, they get all bunched up when I'm like, thank you, he's a boy. They're the ones who care. But part 3, facts. The truth about events as opposed to interpretation. So I'm watching the Alec Murdaugh trial. I was, and I heard Chris Wilson, his best friend, his former best friend at this point, testify to a bunch of different facts. And there were various incidents where Alec asked him for money or asked him to do things that are not, the usual way. But Chris's opinion at the time was he has absolutely no reason to doubt his friend. And so he just believed his friend. As far as he was concerned, the facts were his friend is trustworthy. His friend would never do anything to harm him or anyone else. And so therefore he just trusted whatever his friend was doing. And what his friend was doing seemed kind of shady. It didn't even make that spidey sense go off because he trusted him so automatically that the fact that the motherfucker was stealing did not factor in to his interpretation or even his belief. Okay. Anyway, the main point, especially in me trying to get it across with my children, is that people have the right to be wrong. People have the right to have their facts wrong. Of course, you don't have the right to steal X people and stuff like that. And in that case, most likely I hope Alec is going to have to pay the consequences. But the facts are that his grandpa's portrait was in the courtroom. His family's extremely, like, centuries worth of powerful in this town. The facts are that rich white men get away with shit all the time, right or wrong. The facts are if you're rich and powerful, you'll probably be able to get away with things that you can't if you're poor and you're not white. If you're poor and you're not white, you can literally get killed for crossing the street or for just literally existing. That's the facts. It's not right, but it's true. And there's people who believe that the earth is flat. There's people who believe that humans are aliens. There's people who believe that fill in the blank. There's people who believe all kinds of stuff, and in their mind, that is a fact. It's a fact. The fact is that people have different opinions, and you can't change that, and why would you want to? Okay, part 4. So I was also talking about being an advocate. A person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. A person who pleads on someone else's behalf. To publicly recommend or support something. Okay, so in my opinion, to be an advocate is to advocate, which means you're publicly supporting or recommending someone or on somebody's behalf. So, for example, with Britney Spears, justice for Britney Spears, people can advocate for that. However, what justice for her means is subjective to the person advocating. So even just the phrase, I am a Britney Spears, I am a justice for Britney Spears advocate, what that means to person A might be different than what it means to person B. Therefore, there can't be black and white what advocating means, because everybody has their own particular version of what they think they're advocating for. Now, of course, we can get aligned, we can agree on stuff. We can agree to say, yes, actually 2 + 2 is 4. And you can agree to that. And then, you have groups of people who agree generally to the same thing. And that's where you get religion, or you get Britney Spears fans, or, you get the people who believe she's already free. You get the people who couldn't give a flying fuck and they don't even know about her. You got the people who, like me, think something's wrong and shady and she's not speaking out for herself. You've got other people who think something's wrong and shady, but they have a totally different opinion of what's going on. Okay, so my opinion is that facts are not actually as factual as people believe. Do you understand that science itself is an art? Like, I don't want to talk too much about controversial things, but I have a particular way of looking at health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health. And somebody else might have a completely different way of looking at it. And to them, their version is factual. Some people believe very heavily, to my opinion, some people literally straight up worship as if it was a god, the pharmaceutical industry. And every single time that they have a little blip or a boop or a bop, they run to get some pharmaceutical drugs. They run to get surgery. They run to get procedures and all this stuff with the technology. And they believe in it as if it were God. I was harmed and injured for many years in that industry. So I have a completely different version of what facts are to me in the medical industry. Part 5. It's getting long, kind of, and I wonder now if it's a little bit all over the place. The point I'm really trying to get to is that even with facts tend to be interpreted by the person doing the interpretation, and there's a lot more subjectivity in science and even in math than we might realize. So the bigger point for me, the bigger lesson or takeaway is something I try to teach my children. I try to teach myself as well, which is Arguing with people who have different opinions is a waste of time. People have free will. People have the right to have their own opinions. People have the right to think that you're wrong, and you have the right to think that other people are wrong. People have the right to be wrong. Now, talking a little about Alex Murdaugh again, okay? Again, he hasn't been proved in a court of law to have been guilty of these crimes that he allegedly committed. However, the facts, like whether he actually did it or not did it, I don't know. Are they going to be able to prove it? Do they have enough evidence? Do they have enough facts that support the case? Well, his lawyer's job is to advocate for the best interest of their client. Sometimes it's not what's true, it's not what's 2 + 2 = 4, but it's in the best interest of the client. That's a lawyer's job. Not to prove that he's innocent. His lawyer's job is to confuse, to muddy the waters, to make the facts that the prosecution presents as facts, to make them confusing, to throw in a bunch of extra shit, to make it seem like, yeah, that might be true, but so is this and that and the other thing, or maybe this isn't true, maybe this is true. Versions of reality, ways of looking at things. Some people believe that if you have a penis, you're a boy. If you have a vagina, you're a girl. And if you have a penis and you're a boy, then you're going to have to like this and that and the other thing. And you're going to have to marry a girl and blah, 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 blah. And if you have a vagina and you're a girl, you're going to like this and then the other thing. And you're going to like these colors and that thing. And you're going to have to marry a boy. Well, not everybody believes that. I don't believe that. Not everybody experiences that. See, some people will say, well, biology. Biology is a science and a science is an art. Okay, so yeah, when people spew facts to prove their point, often what they're doing is saying, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm better than you, and and my way of believing is the way that it has to be. My thoughts are, if you're not out there Xing people, stealing money and stuff, then who the heck cares what you believe? I don't care if you're a unicorn from Xanadu and that your purpose in life is to make it rain rainbow hearts. I don't know. I don't care. It's like, if it doesn't harm anybody, who effing cares what the facts are? Now, in the facts with Murdaugh, is he going to get energizing? Part 6. So Trev and I, we talked about trust as well. And I was trying to make the point, which, I believe I did, that, yeah, we should trust people, like have general trust in humanity. But however, actually trust, when we say trust, I trust you, that implies that you and that person have some type of agreed upon end game in some sense, like in a friendship. Trust. Oh, I trust that I'm going to hear from you with some regularity. I trust that you're not going to talk shit about me behind my back. I trust that you are who you say you are, meaning that you're representing yourself honestly. Kind of again with Alex Murdaugh, his friend trusted that they were in high school together. They were roommates at one point. They had a business together. They raised their families as families. For 20 some years, this man trusted that his friend was trustworthy and honest. And come to find out, all this time he's been lying and doing all this terrible stuff behind his back. Okay, but anyway, when we trust people, we are putting on them a level of responsibility. And unless they themselves have said, yes, I trust you as well, and I trust, like, what do you mean you trust? You trust what? Trust implies that someone has some shared goal with you. Again, shared humanity, trust. It's like, yeah, I trust that you're not going to harm me. I'd like to trust that. I don't just implicitly trust people. I walk down the street and I have trust that people are not going to jump out and attack me. However, if they look really weird, if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody tweaking out or whatever, I'm going to trust my instincts and I'm going to move away from that person. I don't like the lighting over here, but I got to charge my phone. So when we say I trust you to someone, we're actually putting some level of responsibility on them that they may not agree to, or they may not be aligned with us. Again, bringing it back to Britney Spears' advocacy. And I said, don't trust anybody. You do not know what their end game is. You don't know if they're trying to make money off her name. You don't know if they're trying to get fame. You don't know if they're trying to get big. You don't know if they're trying to become a big name creator because they talk about Britney Spears so they get followers. You don't know if they want in the industry. You don't know if they're already part of her team. You've got to be careful to who you trust. Part 7. I feel like I've been talking forever now. So I also talked a bit about yesterday about, with veganism. I became vegan 15 years ago. And at some point, first I was just learning about it for myself, for my own health. And I got into it through health. Like I was saying in one of these parts, I was injured in the pharmaceutical world and the medical world. And I ended up healing all of those problems, all of those so-called incurable medical problems that I trusted the medical doctors who were diagnosing me, testing me, and all that stuff. I trusted their diagnosis until 10, 15 years passed and I was getting worse and worse and worse. And I trusted that their facts were the facts, but then I started to learn new facts and I started to get new experiences and I started to heal my body. And then when my real life experience was that actually all those so-called ailments that were incurable and lifelong, that I would need all these intense, horrible pharmaceutical drugs all these years, my whole life, all of that was gone. I healed it all with food and emotional healing from traumas as well. And so my entire world of what was true, what was facts, what you believe in, what you have faith in and trust in, altered. When we're talking about, let's say, donuts, you got 2 donuts, I got 2 donuts, we got 4 donuts we're going to share. Yeah, it's nice and easy. But in real life, things are way more nuanced. And what does 2 even mean? What does 2 equate to? So your 2 plus my 2 equals 4, but what is the 4? Life is not actually black and white. There is corruption, there's systemic racism, there's privilege for some, and others don't get it. This video is just a discussion about the nuances and where do we draw the line? What is justice? And what do you fight for? What do you walk away from? And when is your happiness more important than so-called justice? And also, organic apples are not the same as pesticide apples or rotten apples. So 2 plus 2 is not always equal to 4. 4 is not equal to your. You know what? 2 plus 2 does equal 5 because taxes. 2 plus 2 always equals 5, if not more. And then when you have to pay income tax, 2 plus 2 equals. My point about the 2 plus 2 equals 4 or 2 plus 2 equals 5 is that, yes, in some realms, let's say we're talking about money, $2 plus $2 equals $4, and that is indisputable. But then if you bring in currency, and, okay, if we're talking about American dollars, then yes, 2 American dollars equals 2 American dollars, and that is that. And I agree with you. And there are instances where facts are facts, Did you the person or did you not the person? It's true or it's not true. Is Britney Spears free or is she not free? Is she being abused or is she not abused? Was she abused or was she not abused? Does she have her money? Does she not have her money? A lot of these things are facts. They're facts. They're facts. I agree with you. This is what it is. She deserves freedom. She deserves justice. She deserves her money. She deserves to have the people who harmed her be, made to pay for that. And I agree with that. I agree with that. That is 2 plus 2 equals 4. And there are no qualms about it to me because I agree with you. So if you and me are agreeing, absolutely, absolutely. When you borrow money from a bank or you get money from a credit card, their $2 is not your $2. They give you $2 and then you give them $2.50. You know what I'm saying? Or you pay for something at the store. It costs $2, but it's not $2 when you actually get up to the register and you pay because there's taxes. So 2 plus 2 equals 4, but 4 doesn't always equal 4 depending on who you are. If you're King Charles and and you inherit $1 billion and a bunch of fucking castles, well, you don't have to pay taxes and shit on that because they understand that if you had to pay the taxes that normal people have to pay, then you would literally lose your fortune and you would no longer be a royal and you wouldn't be rich. So they say you don't have to because we want to keep you rich. So your $2 is not the same as somebody else's $2. If you get $2 and you have to spend all of it, then that's different than if you get $2 and it goes on top of a pile of a bunch of $2. So 2 equals 4 is true most of the time, except for most of the time, maybe, this is what I'm saying. Real life, like when you write it down, like 2 + 2 = 4, and that is it. And therefore, black and white, and therefore, I'm right. But when you put it into the nuanced situation of real life, how does it hold up and where does it add up? And actually, is your 2 the same as mine? And so now I have a completely different way of viewing the world. My trust is not the same as it was anymore because my own experience has made that. And, obviously that happens to a lot of us in good and bad. If somebody cheats on you or betrays you, like with Alex Murdaugh again, his friend trusted him, and that was an absolute betrayal. I mean, he betrayed everybody, I guess, in his life. Alec did. Okay, so yes, sometimes we trust someone and they straight up betray us, and it hurts. So give yourself the permission to heal. Give yourself permission to grieve. Give yourself the time you need to process it and to go through the pain. Feel the feelings of pain and anger and betrayal. And then also, hopefully, like I always say to my kids, well, my younger kid, he's kind of an all or nothing person. And I try to get him to want to feel better. I say, be your own best friend. Want to feel better. Want to let yourself think better thoughts. Not spiritual bypass and pretending that shit didn't happen, but allow yourself to feel better. Part 8, that means this is going to be already 24 minutes. So let's see if I can recap and pull it all together in the next 3 minutes. So facts are subjective as much as people believe that they're black and white facts, in my opinion. Now, also in my opinion, some facts are indisputable, like Mr. X X'd Mr. K. Well, if he really did it, then he really did it. However, what's going to happen to Mr. X for Xing Mr. K? Well, you might believe it's black and white facts, he should go to jail, but the real facts might be maybe he's a super powerful, wealthy, rich white man who's got ties to law enforcement, judges, and the people in the fucking prison. So maybe Mr. X X'd Mr. K, and that's the goddamn fact. But the goddamn other facts is that he's going to get away with it. Okay? Then you can have the facts that you can have a perfectly angelic person who does nothing but make damn sandwiches every week and goes to church and is just an angel in the community and happens to be a certain skin color that the cop factually believes is inferior. And so that person just shoots that person and kills them on a Sunday while she's out handing out damn sandwiches to community children who are in need. And this cop over here believes, because how he was raised, that his skin color is superior to that person's skin color. And so he kills that innocent woman. And then the facts are that he lives in a country where his skin color is systemically raised up and the other one is systemically pushed down. And so guess what? He killed that lady, and then he gets to go home, have dinner with his family, and and maybe he even gets a promotion. You got people over here pushing that everybody has to be injected with a pharmaceutical drug, and then you got people over there saying, no, but I was injured. And then you got people like me who are like, hey, mind your own effing business. You don't get to inject me with shit. You got people over here disowning their family members because this person is gay. You got this person disowning their family member because they want to have long hair. You got this person disowning their family member because they don't want to be a doctor. And this person wants to be a comedian. This person is an artist. You got this person who's like, their mom has got, like my grandpa. My grandpa had 5 wives, not all at once. So that was really pretty fucked up. And that gave me a very skewed version idea of life. The point is that there's so much variety in the world that when anyone stays like, This is the truth, the actual facts. It just makes me kind of cringe and actually say like, but what's the point? What's the point? Maybe part 9, because I could have spent all this time just doing voice messages for that one particular person. But I was like, you know what? If I'm going to sit here and spill all my heart and soul and thoughts and feelings, I might as well make it a video so I can post it and maybe somebody else can get something out of it. So perspective impacts facts. Life experiences impacts your idea of facts. And languages are not just a word for word translation. So the thing about languages might seem totally like, what the hell are you talking about? But when I was a kid, I used to think a language translating was just, you say this in French, you say this in English, you say this in Spanish, you say this in Creole. Okay. But then I learned that it's not just word for word translations. Different languages, different cultures actually literally think differently. The way they view the world is differently. I used to go out with this Israeli guy, and he was a horrible person. But he taught me some things about how when he would try to explain something, I learned that it's not just as simple as translating black is noir, black is negro, black is
kuro,
or white is blanco, white is
blanche, siro,
red is
rouge,
red is
roja, aka,
all the colors of the rainbow. Life is not just black and white. Nuance. It's not just as simple as that. People have different ways of interpreting the world, of perceiving the world, and you don't have to just be from another country. You can have two people, like my children. They are born from me and my ex, me and my siblings, same. We've got the same parents. Well, my sister and I do, and then my brother and I have different, we have same dad. But okay, and you can grow up with the same exact parents in the same house, in the same family, having the quote unquote same life experience, but everybody is going to interpret it in their own way. So I feel like sometimes people like to be very righteous, and they like to be right. They like to be righteously right, and they like to be able to cling to things like 2 + 2 = 4. And that's a fact. And then they want to apply that thinking to the rest of life. And that's why there's problems in the world. Look out at the world. Nature does not grow in squares and rectangles and straight lines. Nature is blended. People are like, oh my God, that doesn't match. That's so clashy. And then look at the world. The world is million of colors. Like, what are you talking about? Black and white when there's infinite combinations of colors. Even numbers are not always 2 + 2 = 4. Part 10, because I'm a content creator. Post-it notes, because these videos go by really fast. So I'm just going to read. Open your mind, but not so much that your brain falls out. If you're not stealing or killing people, then do whatever the F you want. 3, mind your own business. 4, do you focus your energy on your own intentions, your own purpose, your own life. And then as far as trust, yes, on one hand, be careful who you trust, but at the same time, what do you mean when you say trust? What are you trusting? Or what are you tasking this person with, or charging them with, or imposing upon them? What do you mean in that word, I trust you? There's some implicit meaning. There's some expectation. There's responsibility. There's some level of demand. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying be careful. Think about it. What are you really expecting of someone? Like, for example, for a while, for like 3 years, I was trusting my then boss to have the same end game goal as I did, which ultimately he didn't. I wanted to rise up and be an amazing florist. He wanted to keep me as a grunt worker. It worked amazing for him to let me clean everything, clean all the roses, clean all the flowers, basically do all the grunt hard work. And then he would come in and go pluck, 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 pick all the flowers, make beautiful arrangements, have all the fun stuff, get all the money. And I'm the one sitting there cutting my fingers every day, lifting heavy buckets and shit, and getting none of the fun, and that's what worked for him. And I trusted for a long time, and then I was getting angry, and then I finally realized, what the heck, girl? It's not his responsibility to lift me up. It's my job. Maybe like getting a job being the assistant of Britney Spears and hoping that that's going to lift you up so that you can also be a great singer is a foolish idea. Like some people don't want the backup singer to have aspirations of being a star, at least not on the stage there at the time, or not when you're working for me. Like, I just need you to be my assistant, or I just need you to lay down the tracks, or I just need you to, get all the roses and all the flowers cleaned, ready to go, buckets ready to go, answer the phone calls, take the orders. And when I come in, boom, 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 I want to do it all. And so therefore, I had to acknowledge and accept within myself, he's not theoretically wrong. It's his business. It's his family's legacy. It was his dad's company. He has every right to do whatever the heck he wants, to run it how he wants. He's the owner. He's the boss. He's the head honcho, so to speak. And I was there. I had my aspirations. I had my hopes and dreams. I shared them and communicated with them. I shared and communicated them with him regularly over the course of 3 years. He always knew what my hopes and intentions were. I felt strung along and kind of took an advantage of for a while. But when I finally said, you know what, it's my responsibility to put the onus on me. It's my job. It's my task to trust myself that, you know what, if this is not the best situation for me, if this is not going to help me get to where I need to go, then I need to take myself out of that situation and stop being upset with him. And all the while, when I felt like it was his responsibility to give me the opportunity, I had resentment. But as soon as my mind shifted and I said, oh my God, you know what? It's my job to own my own destiny and to notice whether or not, to learn to discern, is this a compatible situation? Is this going to get me where I want to go? No, it's not. Okay, I could sit here and be pissed and angry and complain and be mad, or I can freaking move on. And that's what I did. And right now, it doesn't mean that I'm like making all the money. I got to figure it out. Okay. But at least I've decided, hey, at least right now, if I have to be mad at anybody, I can be mad at myself, because I'm making the opportunity for myself to have a growth. I recognize that with him, yes, I was able to absolutely count on X amount of money, and that was it. And for a long while, I was clinging to that X amount of money, saying I can't walk away from that X amount of money. But then I realized that X amount of money was so limited that I could walk away. And even though the new amount of money I could get was an unknown amount, it was still an infinite amount more and could exponentially grow, where that was a fixed amount of money. It was never going to change. And it just was not a formula that could work for me. So 2 + 2 no longer added up to 4, and I had to move on because it wasn't compatible, but I had to own it for myself and stop blaming him. Which brings me to this point. Own yourself. Be conscious of your own mind, heart, health, spirit. Leave others alone. Mind your own effing business. Spread love. People betray us and then we want to rip them apart. We want to blast it out. But like I said in yesterday's videos, tearing people down is not the way to make yourself elevated. Speak your truth. Go to court if you need to. Fight for your rights. Make a blog. Make a video. Have a platform. But you don't need to tear people down. Anyway, that's my thoughts on trust, on all kinds of topics that I discussed here. The 30-minute video will go up on YouTube if you want to watch it all in one. Thank you. See you in the next one. Part 11. Also, I want to just say, I'm not going to blast out people every time, we have an exchange, but this is a generalized topic that I feel is important and interesting. So I did get a response and a question from Trev. Thank you. And it actually, as I watched the videos I made, I wanted to kind of summarize it all back up. So Trev said, genuine question on the subject of 2 + 2 = 5, since that is mathematically proven to be incorrect, ergo a hard fact. At what point does our obligation to correct that end? Or do you feel there is even an obligation? I definitely feel there's a difference between combating a hard fact versus a me fact, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for that very, very thoughtful question. Maybe I'll make part 12 and read the comments that I responded to Trev about that, but I had made some notes for myself to make another part while I was watching my other ones, which actually does tie in perfectly with that. But I'll read my notes to myself and then I'll read those comments. So, where do I let go of seeking justice and focus on happiness? When do you give up? It's ultimately up to you. What is justice? And then I wrote never. Like, if you are trying to seek justice for someone who is a criminal, who hurts people, and that person is out and about walking free, and you know that that person is going to hurt more people, then I personally think you never stop. You never stop. But then again, this little thing I made about Chris Wilson, there's a way to go about it. So with Alec Murdaugh, Chris Wilson was his best friend. Yesterday, Friday, February 3rd, 2023, he said, he was asked, when was the last time you spoke to Alec? So he had already testified that basically when everything started to unravel after Maggie and Paul were dead and all the financial started coming out, somebody last name Coke was calling Chris, telling him the truth. He's basically had a conversation with Alec where Alec confessed to some of the financial stuff, not the killing. So Chris says he hears all this stuff. He drives to talk face to face with Alec. They have this confrontation on the porch. There is some upset and anger. Eventually, he said Alex crying, breaking down, telling him all this stuff. At some point, he says, he leaves. He said he didn't leave in like a rage and stuff, but he was, all messed up. He goes for a drive. He was testifying. He said, that was the last time we spoke. He said he texted me. I responded, I'm thinking of your family. Then he said Alex sent him a letter and he said, I handed it over to the police as evidence. And he sat there and he testified and he told every fact. He told everything that he knew. Now, well, I don't know. He told what he told. I don't know if it's everything. He's probably not everything. Okay. Let me reel that back a little bit. He told what he told. And he did tell about the stuff. And it was heartbreaking. And it was so obvious that it made me a little sad that the part of it was that it was an evidentiary hearing, which means the jury was not present in the room. So they didn't get to see the raw, and he's going to have to do it again, and he's going to do it again. But so my point on this is like, when do you stop for justice? Well, where do you draw the line? Like, this is what I'm saying. You don't need to go out there with your megaphone bashing and telling everybody that this bad person is a bad person, even if they're literally a murderer and a thief. You just do your business. You go to court, you testify, and blockety block. Part 12, I guess I'm not going to read Trev's, my response to Trev yet. So Alec did crimes. He betrayed a lot of people. He may have even exed his wife and son. That's yet to be proven. And his best friend was betrayed, and his best friend wanted to get justice. So he chose, I'm not going to speak to him. He communicated, and he gave it over as evidence. So in that way, Chris was saying, I am not complicit, and I do not condone what you did, and I am not going to continue being your friend. And I'm going to do what I need to do to get justice, and then I'm going to move on, and I'm going to grieve, and I'm going to start the healing process. How we go about getting justice also matters. Like, I remember that lady in the airport whose daughter was missing, and she was trying to get them to listen to her, and they were ignoring her. So she started to throw like computers and keyboards around, and she ended up in jail. And I was like, damn, like, she was right that she needed immediate attention and the people were not giving it to her. So, maybe she should have just started screaming like, my daughter's missing, help me. I don't know. Okay. It's like, we can judge how people are behaving in those certain situations. So how you go about seeking justice does matter. And how you're going about trying to seek justice may be irrelevant if there's systemic racism against you. And, so there's that whole truth that how you go about it sometimes is irrelevant, because you could be the most peaceful person, but if the system is racist against you, and also So Trev had said, when somebody believes that 2 + 2 = 5, when do you stop trying to prove it? Or do you? And I'm equating that 2 + 2 = 4, and somebody believing 2 + 2 = 5. I'm equating that to basically saying it only matters when it's regarding like justice. If it's anything less than someone is being harmed, seriously harmed, then it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Okay. But that's why I'm equating it like, when do you stop seeking justice for this hard fact that, hey, 2 + 2 = 4 here, which means an injustice happened. And so we need justice to be served, because justice not being served means 2 + 2 = 5. And I'm not going to stand for that. And then this is where I say it's really up to each individual. Like, there are law enforcement agencies who say, hey, it's my job to enforce the law. But then if somebody knows that there's a criminal out there hurting, then that person has to continue seeking justice. So it's subjective, but it's also hard facts, and how you go about it matters. I guess there's going to be part 13. Part 13, and it's only right that we're on corruption. So stress relief, or entspannung corruption. What about trying to get justice when there's a corrupt justice system? Trying to get justice. If you're a rich white man and you killed a couple people and your wife and your son, and you stole a bunch of money, maybe it's a lot easier for you to get justice if the system is rigged in your favor. And even though the judge is not a white man, and like Britney Spears' judge, she's not a white lady, and not everybody on Britney Spears' team that's making money off of her is a rich white man, but it's a rich white man's system, and it's corrupt. So when do you stop seeking justice in a corrupt system, when there's injustices happening and continuing to occur? And like in the case with Britney Spears, where I believe that most likely she is currently still being abused and silenced and experiencing the same traumas and corruptions that she tried so hard to speak about and was so terribly silenced, so much so that the corrupt, as Judge Penny just decided yesterday, denied. No, Jamie Spears does not have to sit for another deposition. No, he's not going to have to pay money because he, played games, his poor gamemanship, when he gave all the stuff that he supposedly gave, all the text and information that he gave in a jumble, and the judge said, no, he doesn't have to be fined for that. And no, he doesn't have to give anything else. What you got is what you got. He did it on time. He gave you what you asked for. Then he gave it back to you the second time in the format that you asked for. He already sat and answered questions, and it would be unfair and unjust, and he doesn't have to pay any money. And denied to Britney. And she's got a lawyer, and she's going the legal route, and she's being denied justice. So what do? You fight. And this is where I'm saying it comes down to each individual person to decide, when do you stop fighting? That's up to you. And how do you go about your advocacy for justice for her? That's up to you. What are your resources? What are your financial resources? What are your connections? Who do you know? How can you get around? What's your ability to coordinate, cooperate, organize, band together, find like-minded people who are willing to do things the way you want to do things. People who don't want to do things the way you want to do things, maybe they're not part of your team. Let it go. Ultimately, it's really up to you. Justice is 2 + 2. Part 14. If you want to read the comments that I responded to the question about where do you draw the line on 2 + 2 = 4, you can go back to part 3 of this on Instagram. I don't know if I'm going to read them. I want to just follow up with my stream of consciousness thoughts about, when do you stop seeking justice, or do you ever stop seeking justice, especially when the injustice is still happening and it's a corrupt system? And I say no, but I also say at some point, each person has to individually decide for themselves, when do you stop? So Thank you again, Trev, for giving me inspiration to make content that's sort of Britney Spears justice adjacent. However, it's not like specifically about her, because that's kind of ultimately what I was talking about. Like, to me, everything ties back into your own mental health, your own well-being, and more things I wanted to say. What to let go? What wrongs do you leave unrighted? And when do you say, you know what, I have to focus on my own mental well-being, my own health, my own happiness, and that actually trying to continue seeking justice, or maybe trying to continue or maybe trying to continue seeking justice right now is more detrimental than it is healthy for me, and that's not ultimately better for any particular cause. So if it's like a personal injustice against you personally, or someone actually harms you personally, then it's 100% up to you to decide when you're going to personally stop seeking justice, if you ever will, and what routes you'll continue going. And then when it comes to justice for a person who's ultimately a stranger, or let's say justice for a cause, like a bigger cause, something bigger than Britney Spears specifically as a human being, but the cause of like STFG, or, you know, people's rights not being upheld, or like a corrupt system in general, or maybe systemic racism or systemic corruption. These are like bigger than one person kind of issues. And again, at what point do you step back and say, the more that I'm doing this, the more I'm destroying my own life? Like, there has to be a level of balance, or you're really not actually doing any good for any cause. So I'm going to finish this series up by saying, ultimately trust that other people can decide for themselves where they want to live, and you choose for yourself what justice you want to fight for, and you know where you want to also manage your own happiness and mental health. Seek justice, always seek justice, but also always manage your own mental health, remembering that you can't be any good to anyone if you're unwell. So taking care of yourself is taking care of other people. Okay, and